Ever feel like your MBTI type doesn't quite fit? You might be a jumper type. Hi, I'm Rachel Castile, and welcome to Mind Map Wednesdays here at Typology Corner. This series helps you understand how your mind is wired so that you can grow with clarity and intention. And today we are talking about jumper types in OPS, what they are, how they work, and why they matter. So jumpers in OPS is basically the types that are jumping function 2 and are prioritizing 1 and 3. So the core in Myers-Briggs is that we have a 4 function stack, and that 1 and 2 is like the strongest giftings and 3 and 4 are weaker is the idea. But in objective personality, they really have observed that a lot of people are jumping the secondary and prioritizing and actively using the third more than the secondary process. This is true for introverts and extroverts. So you end up getting like extroverted extroverts, like really like completely relying on extroverted functions in their decision making and observation. And then for introverts, you have like super introverts who are relying on internal processes for decision making and observation. And so I really love that they've brought this out. It's super important on this channel and all of my content on Mind Map Wednesdays. I always want to cover the full spectrum because there's more than just 16 types. At its core, there are 32 types. And today we're going to look at what it looks like to be a jumper. So starting out, I've got this one. Here we go. This is what it looks like for an introvert, the INTJ, and what it looks like for an extrovert over here. So standard is saying first and second. You see that the S, first and second functions are saviors. But for the jumpers, the first and the third are. This is what it looks like. It's basically a decision maker and an observer process as the savior, and the variations that you can see. Later on another handout or a visual that I've made, you'll see lots of different types and what it actually looks like and how it does like veer off from the classic Myers-Briggs descriptions you read on like 16personalities.com, stuff like that, it's painting an archetypal image of what that type sounds like, acts like, behaves like. And jumpers, they just really won't fit into that. They're another variation that needs to be acknowledged, that they don't need to be pigeonholed into the description. So we all have all 4 functions. Depending on what your type is, that determines what those 4 functions are. And you have access to all of them, but you trust and rely on them in a different rhythm. That's what we're looking at. So your growth path is different. Everything's different if you're a jumper. And now that we've looked at that, a jumper leads with the third, even if it's not supposed to come that early in theory. So now let's look at what it feels like to be a jumper. Honestly, like jumpers, they get mistyped a lot, get pigeonholed. They can feel misunderstood, even amongst like other people within their type. They're like, okay, I've got my type, but I don't really relate to these other INFJs. I don't relate to the other ENFJ or, ENTP. Like, I don't really notice that in myself. I'm not that reliant. They may be resistant to their secondary process. The MBTI descriptions don't quite land, even if the letters are technically correct. You're supposed to rely on one function. It could be NEFI, but it doesn't feel natural. You may lean hard on your third function while ignoring or distrusting the second. Some examples here, maybe people told you that you're ENFP, but you've never really led with FI. You probably moved through TE. You want structure, results, progress, more externally focused. An introverted example, you might be an INTP, but you've always trusted SI more than NE. You stay grounded in what's worked instead of chasing every new idea. You relate to your letters, but the way your brain actually works never fully made sense until you learn that you're a jumper. So now let's get into the real world examples here. What balanced functions look like and type variety in a way. So to kind of explore balance, like I like to coach with a balanced mindset and a gifting mindset. So you have a dominant gifting based on what your saviors are, which you use all the time. And then your balance path is different. So just to show you a couple of examples, we're going to go from the INFP across and kind of work our way over here. The INFP, who is a jumper, they are using FI right here as a savior and SI, skipping the NE. So that's like, I'm going to do it as a very concise like run through. So FI, internal values, SI, personal memory is what's dominant. They don't trust the NE, exploration. They're more grounded, private, and detail oriented than expected. And then for the ENTP in the middle right here, they are prioritizing the NE and the FE, skipping the TI. So NE is like possibility scanning, FE, external harmony, skips the TI and may resist deep internal analysis. All three of those words like glitched. Resist deep internal analysis. Next, we've got the ISTP over here. This is the double introvert using function type right here. They are relying on TI and NI while skipping their SE. And that looks like TI, internal logic, NI, future vision. While skipping the SE, they may mistrust present moment sensory input and feels more visionary and withdrawn than reactive, less open to the present moment, real-time stuff coming in, more focused on their vision, where they're going, things like that. And then the ESFJ in the corner down here, they are prioritizing FE and NE while skipping the SI. So that looks like people harmony, FE, NE, brainstorming, more creative. They're skipping SI and may avoid routines, nostalgia, and repetition. And then the INFJ we have next. They are a jumper right here. That's NI and TI as saviors, skipping the FE. And that could look like leading with vision and TI being the internal logic. They're skipping FE. So instead of tuning into external harmony, they focus on internal precision. Can come across more analytical, private, or detached compared to the typical INFJs. And then lastly, we have the ENTJ over here in the corner. That's prioritizing TE and SE as saviors, skipping the NI. So that could look like the TE is external logic and SE real-time action. They're skipping the NI and may resist introspection. They're bold, fast-moving, and results-oriented in the moment. So less vision-prone and more just like getting stuff done, being productive, getting results in the moment. And are more content with not having to have like a long-term vision that they're heading towards. So extremely different if you're used to any of these personality types. This is a variation that is extremely valid. There are people who type like this and do not identify with the classic descriptions. Another point to bring out while looking at the functions is jumping, say for the ENTJ, right? He's jumping the NE and is prioritizing the SE. It doesn't become an ESTJ. The functions used is these four functions. The ESTJ has four completely different functions, not completely, but the middle two are different compared to the ENTJ. So this is not a sensor in their code. Like the normal MBTI 4 letters is still ENTJ, but it's an ENTJ jumper. Because they're still using SE, they're not using SI. This honors the certain function axes. So that's why it's important, because you may feel this person feels like a sensor, more of a sensor, and they are a more sensory version of the ENTJ. So that's another important thing to notice about it. The letters don't change. Like I'm an ESTP, I'm a standard ESTP, but if I was to jump my TI, value my FE, I'm still an ESTP jumper is what that would be. And that just be notated. It just be like ESTP, SE, FE type. yeah, so hopefully that was beneficial. I think the visual can kind of help bring to life the functions and it not just be a lot of jargon and verbiage. But yeah, these aren't mistakes. They're just different strategies and they all make sense when you see the full picture. And now let's get into why it matters for growth. You're not broken, you're just wired differently. This is really important. Yeah, it's not something that needs to be changed about you. You bring something to the world that is extremely valuable and needed, that is unique to you because you are a jumper type. Without this clarity, you might feel like you're bad at being your type. But jumper wiring is valid and it explains so much. Yes, so true. Yeah, it explains your tendencies, your propensities, your avoidances, the things that's uncomfortable for you. A description might say like, hey, you're really good at this. And you're like, I'm actually not. I struggle with that. I struggle with going inside and like processing and like really mulling over logic and stuff. Like I'm more like to be out in my emotions and the feelings and stuff. Like, yeah, it really is important. It explains what brings you joy versus what drains you. Like, it's very important. So yeah, when you accept your real saviors, you stop trying to grow from an expectation and start growing from truth. Yes. OP is all about seeing where you are now, seeing what your real tendencies are, and learning to love yourself in that reality and the truth of what your wiring is. And then to give yourself grace and kindness as you notice the things that are hard for you and to begin to start to work on those. But yeah, there's no reason to put expectations on yourself, but to actually observe just what you are and to be kind to yourself, to love that about yourself and to be able to communicate that to others, that your needs are met, you know. So yeah, very, very important. Let me get me some water real quick. And I love this point. Yeah, jumpers have a unique gifting. The strong use of the first and the strong use of the second. It's not a flaw, it's something of value. You simply have a different growth path than the standard type or standard version of your type. And yeah, stop faking wholeness. I've had that. Yeah, you stop faking wholeness and you start becoming it. You start becoming whole. As my type, so I am a standard type. I honestly was always trying to be like very FE like, and it's been very freeing for me. So like this applies to standards and jumpers because as a standard type, me acknowledging that my gifting is my logic, it is my understanding, it is like mulling over stuff and like all of that, like being able to communicate a lot of deep TI logic and stuff is something I really enjoy. It doesn't drain me. But I was always holding myself to the standard of like FE and having to show up very FE and not like TI can feel kind of detached from people. And yeah, that's a savior for me and that's okay. Now, like, as I'm making videos, like I'm making videos thinking like having people in mind of like, hey, is this valuable for the tribe? I need to think about those things. But my gifting isn't necessarily that. I'm learning that. I'm learning to present my logic in a way that it does benefit people, but just to show that like the spectrum of saviors versus demon functions. Yeah. We stop faking wholeness and you start becoming it. We can become whole when we acknowledge where we are, what we're good at, and our blind spots. Yeah, so now I've got a couple questions for you, just to kind of think and ponder on like reclaiming how you're wired, things that you can meditate on. So do you actually trust your second function in your stack? If you know your type, what function do you lead with instinctively without thinking? That's what we're looking at to see your saviors. What function do you lead with instinctively without having to think? Yeah, what do you rely on to make decisions? What types of observations you're attuned to, focused on? And are you willing to stop judging your wiring and start understanding it? Yeah, when you're ready to embark on that journey, if you have already, great, continue on in that. If this is new to you, I'd love to help you to type you to understand yourself. You can always book a session with me at typologycorner.com. I have links in the descriptions below to my website that you can book a session. I'd love to help you see what is normal for you so you can kind of see your path to growth, your giftings, what you're good at, your blind spots. Yeah, guys. But yeah, what do you trust? What do you trust? What do you rely on? And then sometimes it's hard to see yourself. That's why typing is very important. I initially got typed by Dave and Shan with OP, objectivepersonality.com. They're incredible. So yeah, they really helped me to confirm my type maybe 4 years ago. And yeah, it's been great being able to see myself, to admit to myself what I'm doing all of the time, and to use that to my advantage. Yeah. So whether you're a standard or jumper, your wiring has a reason. Your value doesn't come from matching a mold. It comes from living aligned with how you were truly made. Yeah, guys. So that is it for this video. If you have any questions, definitely comment below. I'd love to hear your thoughts, and comment if this helped you understand your type more clearly. If you already know your type, if you've been typed as a jumper, if you've been typed as a standard, if you've just taken free assessments, hopefully this has given you some more clarity or intrigued you to really take a deeper dive to understand yourself. If it has helped, I'd love to hear from you. Please comment below, and also subscribe so that you don't miss next week's Mind Map Wednesday. I do this, I talk about OP stuff every single Wednesday. So if you value this type of content, definitely subscribe. Follow me on Facebook. I post there. Instagram, YouTube, all the places. YouTube is my primary place, but yeah, wherever you are, share this out. Share it with a friend who's been struggling to find their type or to fit into an MBTI description. Yeah, it may be something that'll unlock another deeper level of understanding for them. So, and lastly, you're not broken. You're just a jumper, and that's okay. That's allowed. That's perfectly normal. And yeah, I'm so glad to have you here on the channel watching this video. I'd love to hear from you. If you are a jumper, let me know. And if you got value out of this, go and give me a thumbs up. I love knowing that the video made an impact. And yeah, guys, thanks for watching, and stay tuned for the next video. Take care.